have a distinct memory of being 8 years old and sitting in my second grade classroom and having the sudden thought that if I were to ever have children, I would want to adopt. This was the first time I had ever thought about parenting or motherhood, and from that moment forward, there has never been a single moment in my life where I have had the desire to have my own biological children. Now that I'm a bit older and I better understand the realities of parenting and pregnancy and everything to do with raising children, I just feel more solidified in my choice that I don't want to have kids of my own. I want to adopt, and now that I've learned a lot more, I actually would prefer to foster. Fostering means a lot to me, and I can't say why. I don't know what it is that has put it in my heart to do this. It's just that I've known for as long as I've thought about this that this is what I want to do. This is the route for me. It's not the most conventional route to take as a parent. You know, a lot of people would recommend to me to try having biological children first before resorting to fostering. But the thing is, I don't feel that fostering has to be the alternative. I think it can be the primary, and I'm the kind of person who very firmly wants it to be the primary option. Because yes, I do not want biological children, that much is true, but more importantly, I want to foster, and I feel that even if I had biological children, I would still want to do this. It's just important to me, and it's important to me for a number of reasons. I have solid reasons for why I don't want biological children and why I do want to foster, and these are not necessarily connected, though they are both important in, I feel, what makes me a parent. And while I am not a parent yet, I have thought a lot about parenting, just as a lot of people think about planning their first pregnancy. I think about planning the steps it will take to get to becoming a foster parent. So yeah, I have my reasons for not wanting biological children. Like I said, even if I had them, I'd want to foster. I just feel that first and foremost, people really need to understand that even just saying I don't want kids is a valid reason to not have kids. Unfortunately, I'm at that age and I am of that gender that I have a lot of pressure on me to reproduce, and I find it very frustrating how belligerent people are in trying to change my mind, because while I do have a lot of supportive people in my life who are on board with the fostering idea, I have just as many people who keep trying to convince me that I should want to have a baby, that I should want to go through pregnancy and raise my own kids. And it is very difficult when I give reason after reason after reason, and I shouldn't have to. And I give all these reasons and they still won't take it as a valid enough reason, and they will not stop. So that in itself is a major frustration for me. Aside from just not wanting to have biological children, which, as I said, is reason enough, I have health conditions that are genetic. My fiance has health conditions that are genetic, and they're not great. You know, these are not the kind of health conditions that you can just manage. These are some really debilitating things. He has cystic fibrosis in his family, and so if I were to have the gene, we would have a chance of having a children with cystic fibrosis, which unfortunately has happened in his family. He's lost family to cystic fibrosis because it can be fatal. And then I have my schizoaffective disorder, which runs in my family. Apparently my grandfather had it. And psychosis to me is a fate worse than death that I wouldn't wish on anyone, and I would hate to put someone into a literal living hell because I passed it on to them. I don't want to risk that. And that's not even including the other inheritable things that we have just between the two of us, like the narcolepsy, the Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, the esophageal issues. He and his mom have both had hiatal hernias and had to have surgery on their esophaguses. He has IBD, he has fibromyalgia. We have just a whole slew of issues that are a mixing pot for, disorders. Like, the odds that we would have a child that goes by unscathed is very unlikely. And I have had people tell me that it's still worth the risk, that it's still worth the gamble to have a kid because their friend with epilepsy turned out fine. And it's like, look, we are talking about conditions that can literally be fatal. This is not the Russian roulette you want to play. So while other people may choose to have children with that kind of a genetic setup, that's their decision. This is our decision. Neither of these decisions are wrong decisions. I feel that we're totally allowed to not want to give a kid conditions. I think that's fair. I don't think it's selfish to think that some kid deserves a life, and just because we don't want them to have issues doesn't mean we shouldn't put them out into the world. I simply don't want to put a kid through what I've been through if I don't have to. And that's another thing. If I were to have a pregnancy, it wouldn't just be the kid going through what I've been through. It would be me putting myself through it all over again, because the likelihood that I would have postpartum psychosis or even just go into psychosis during pregnancy is incredibly high. And as I've said literally a minute ago, it is a fate worse than death to me. And I have actually told my family before that if it ever happens again to kill me, to put me out of my misery because I can't survive one more episode. And these are not hyperbolic statements. These are things that when I said them, I genuinely meant. And the fear of going back into an episode is reason enough for me to never become pregnant. Even if there weren't the genetic gamble, there's no chance in hell I'm ever putting myself through that again. I cannot imagine a worse experience. I would literally rather be dead, because going through psychosis is the worst imaginable thing to ever, ever, ever happen to a person, or at least to me. And then, even after the reasons of not wanting to pass on genes, not wanting to go through psychosis, there's also just not wanting to be pregnant and not wanting to go through labor and childbirth. Because if you took away anything else I've said, I still feel that not wanting to be pregnant and not wanting childbirth are reason enough. I don't think people talk enough about the valid fear of pregnancy and childbirth, and it seems to be just expected that people should want to have this experience. And no one seems to be addressing that this is considered the literal worst pain a human can go through. And we're all just supposed to want it blindly without thinking twice about it. But I don't want to put myself through the worst pain of my life. And I have been told I'm selfish for that. But am I? Is it really all that selfish to have that kind of self-preservation that you don't want to put yourself through something that sounds that horrific? Because everything I've heard about childbirth to me sounds horrific. To other people, it's beautiful, it's amazing, yes, but it's alien to me. I don't relate or connect to it. I find it very unsettling. I'm just not at all attracted to anything to do with reproduction. It's always been foreign to me. It's always been so completely far off from what I would want for myself. Because coming back to the main point, what I want for myself is this unconventional family that I would build out of being a foster parent. And I understand that these are temporary relationships. This is not a forever deal. This is not fostering to adopt, at least for me. This is helping children to stabilize and have family and connection in a time when their lives are very chaotic and there's been massive upheaval and they need a safe adult to take care of them. Because that's what I see in fostering, and that's what I feel I have to offer. I don't think I'm the kind of parent that could handle babies, but I love teenagers. I feel especially geared towards teenagers. I've always had a really, really big heart for teenagers. And I feel that I am so much better suited to be a parent of teenagers. Because this is the main reason. The main reason above all else is not just that I don't want biological children, it's that I want to be in a kid's life. I want to be there for them, be a mentor to them, help them through massive life changes, through all the best and bad that can come their way. You know, I want to be that support for them. And I don't feel that I need to be like biologically related to them to have that role in their life. I don't feel like I need to be their biological parent to still have an impact in a child's life and to give them a happy childhood. You know, it's so hard growing up in the foster care system. And I know this not through personal experience, but through the experience of a lot of my friends in the recovery community, because I know many, many people who have either been in the system or have lost their kids to the system. And those connections that I have with those people just kind of reinforce everything I believe about fostering. From the horror stories I've heard about the terrible situations my friends have been in, to the triumphs of my friends who got their kids back, there's a huge spectrum in the fostering experience. And I feel that I have been uniquely positioned in life to help people through situations like that. I myself had an abusive childhood and I wasn't in the system, but I came away from my childhood a survivor of just being in my family, you know what I mean? So I have recovered from a lot of really hard childhood issues, and my fiance as well has dealt with some childhood issues that are the kind of things that kids in foster care would go through. So we both have some experience with childhood trauma as it is. We both have experience as adults in recovery, recovering from both mental illness and addiction. So we have learned how to handle those issues for ourselves. We have tools that we can help those kids with, you know, kids who struggle with having big feelings, kids who struggle with distress tolerance and coping and attachment style issues. Like, we are well prepared to swoop in and help with that. Like, these are the kind of issues that we're uniquely positioned to be able to help with through our own lived experience. And with teens specifically, I feel so drawn towards working with teenagers that I actually wanted to make a career out of this kind of work, out of helping troubled teenagers, because I wanted to be a wilderness therapy guide. So I would be working with an adolescent treatment program that would have, you know, these wilderness programs of backpacking with therapy guides. And I would be trained as a guide in the wilderness as well as with therapy skills. And I would be helping teenagers specifically. And that was my dream job for a long time before I became disabled. And so this is sort of a branch off of that for me. Being able to foster teenagers would kind of be the same avocation of, you know, my heart lies with teenagers. I don't know what it is about teenagers. I just feel that they deserve so much love. I was a troubled teenager myself, you know, I struggled heavily through my teenage years. It was some of the worst years of my life. I was suicidal. I had my own suicide attempt that I survived. I had my first psychotic episode. I had my first abusive relationship that ended in being stalked by my ex-boyfriend. I was sneaking out of my house every night because I hated being at home. I didn't feel safe there. You know, my family was abusive. My brother was bullying me. He was very popular in high school, so I had the whole school bullying me. Oh my God, what else? You know, I was expelled. That's another thing. I did so poorly in school because I was ditching to get high all the time that I actually got expelled and sent to treatment. So these are kind of the exact people that I could connect to, you know, kids who have been taken out of their home and struggle in a conventional school setting. sound a little bit like me. And I'm not saying that teenagers in the foster care system are like bad eggs and troubled teens in the way I was, where they're acting out and they're getting into drugs and they're partying. That's not what I mean at all by that. What I mean is that they are struggling in a way that their peers won't understand. Their peers cannot relate to. They have bigger issues on their plate than most of the people around them have ever been even close to experiencing. And I know this because I have friends who have teenage children that I've now become friends with, who tell me about the difficulties of being raised in these households, the households that ultimately result in having children taken away, these chaotic environments where kids are not safe. I've heard firsthand from a couple of my friends that are teenagers how hard their childhoods have been and how lonely they are because no one can relate to them. These are good kids and they just deserve a chance to have a childhood and to be understood and to have someone who cares for them to keep them safe. I feel like I can offer that. I feel like I listen well to children, teenagers, whatever age. You know, I've always enjoyed children, even though I've never wanted my own. And I just feel so comfortable being able to talk to them in a way that's like on their level, you know? So when my two friends that are teenagers with their family dynamics, when they come to me and they tell me about their things, like, I find that we have really rewarding conversations, you know, and that I've sort of slipped into this mentor role with them. And, you know, teenagers just seem to really gravitate towards me. I think because I seem like a grown-up teenager myself. But yeah, I just feel that teenagers are so underappreciated and so overlooked and so underestimated, and they're amazing people who are on the cusp of adulthood but are very much still children, and very much so still deserve to have a childhood. These are kids who had to grow up so incredibly fast and grow up in a childhood that was not very safe or welcoming of children. These are situations that are reckless even for adults, and for an innocent child to grow up in these environments, you know, it's just unfair, and they do deserve to have all of the things they were essentially robbed of in childhood. They still deserve to play with toys and to go on play dates, and, you know, they deserve to go to the aquarium and have weekend activities. And I feel that I can offer things like that, you know. For one thing, I have the most unconventional job in the world, and that would be, you know, I sell my own art, and I'm a content creator, and I'm also on state or government disability. So my job is all at home. Like, my job is I'm self-employed to just make art and make videos, and my schedule so open, so I can take the kids to school, I can be there with them at home, take them to their activities if they want to have friends over. I don't know if that's something you do with foster care, but like, you know, in any capacity, I have the availability to be there for them. You know, I am uniquely positioned, as I said, to be well suited for this kind of stuff, because my dynamic in life, having recovered from mental illness and addiction and being disabled but stable, this paints a great picture for, like, you know, successful foster care parent in my eyes. And I'm probably tooting my own horn a little too soon because I have not gotten into the process, but I just feel that these are like setting me up to go down this path that I've wanted to go down for so long, like through having had the struggles I've had and the current struggles I have. Like, I can actually be there for a kid in a way that other people who are neurotypical and gainfully employed might not. Now, there are some obstacles in keeping me from jumping right into this process right now, much as I've been wanting to for years. Really, it comes down to two things, which is stability and housing, because as much as I try to make my home look beautiful, this is not the greatest living situation. It's actually quite poor. And I mean that both financially and socially, because my neighbors are assholes and the kids steal our packages and the plumbing is constantly breaking. We've had pipes fixed, I think 6 times now in the 3 years I've lived here. They're constantly turning off the water because they just have terrible plumbing in like every unit, you know. There's cockroaches, like it's not an ideal place for kids. And I would like to have our own, you know, housing, like somewhere permanent, not just an apartment, but a home of our own, you know, with a yard to play in, maybe a dog. And also stability, being that I'm recovering from a lot of things. And, you know, my addiction is stable. Like I've been sober for over 4 years. That's not an issue right now. What is an issue though is that I have only just gotten to the place where I'm mentally stable and can start gaining independence. So I haven't gained the independence I'd like to yet. And I'm getting there because I've been adopting more skills, and lately I've gotten really into the basics like cooking and cleaning, which sound very rudimentary, but when you're as psychologically unstable as I was, these are like paramount. These basic things that I'm just now starting to learn and get back and, you know, adopt into my daily life they're very new to me. So I'm working on routine and schedule and budgeting and everything that I was too unstable to get to. So I've gotten to it, but I'm only just now learning it. It's not a practice yet. It's an effort. And yeah, it will probably always be an effort. Life is always an effort, but I'd like to be a bit more secure so that I can offer the best of myself if I were to go down this road. You know, I really, really want to. I just want to make sure that I have the emotional capacity and the responsibility and accountability to adopt this role. You know, I don't want kids to come in and end up more fucked up because their foster parent is terrible. I want to be really good at this, and that starts with working on myself, because until I'm solid enough in myself that I can invite a new relationship into my life, I really shouldn't even be thinking about it. It's hard enough having a relationship with one person, my fiance. Now that takes work, because any committed relationship does. But if I'm going to add any more relationships or people into my life, I have to work on myself. Maybe all of this sounds incredibly naive to any real foster parents out there. I'm sure a lot of this video is quite laughable, and people may think that I'm not suited for this because I have all the wrong ideas. But, you know, this is just kind of like my open love letter to fostering, because I really do feel that it shouldn't necessarily be the backup plan to not having biological children. I don't feel that this needs to be the alternative. For me, this is all I've ever wanted, and this is the kind of family I'd like. I have seen my friends get their kids back, and while a lot of people tell me, like, do you really think you can do it? It's emotionally heartbreaking. You'll have to give back the kids. Yeah, that's the point. That's what I want. I want to reunite these kids with their families. I want their families to succeed the way my friends have. And when my friends, I have these 2 friends that got their kids back a few years ago, and when they tell me about how supportive their last foster family was, it just fuels me, and it makes me want to be that way for someone that I can help them reunify their family. At the end of the day, I think that's the main motivation here, really, is to just help kids and not have any expectation that they'll stay in my life or be indebted to me in some way. They don't owe me anything. I definitely feel that pressure having biological parents sometimes. I just feel that I can be there to help people, and the people I want to help happen to be kids. Anyway, that was a bit of a ramble, but it's a subject that I'm really passionate about, and I'm looking forward to the day when I'll be ready to do this. I will likely keep posting updates along the way as I get closer to fostering. Fortunately, there's a foster care agency about a mile from where I live. So I have the number, I know the location. I'm just waiting until I'm more secure and have a better living situation to start that process. So those probably won't be happening for a while, those updates, but that is something I'm excited to get to. It is a large motivation in my recovery. I have to say, part of working on myself is getting to the point that I can help others, helping me to help others. And this does drive me a lot in my recovery, to be able to get to this milestone, this goal of mine, that someday I can have that fun little unconventional family that I've always dreamed of. Thank you so much for watching my video. I always appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any comments to share about your experiences with the foster care system or fostering, or any of your thoughts on parenting in general, I would love to hear all about it in the comments. As always, please like and subscribe as well. I put out more videos every Monday and Thursday, so stay tuned because there will be more coming soon. Thank you. Bye.